Ladies and gentlemen, life often speaks to us in whispers, but when we fail to listen, God, in his infinite wisdom and love, sends us more explicit signs, warnings meant not to punish, but to awaken, redirect, and protect. Today, I want to share with you 7 shocking signs that God might be sending you a divine warning. How many of you find yourselves battling the same issue over and over? Every season, it's the same test, the same problem knocking on your door. My friends, this is not a coincidence. When you see a pattern repeating in your life, understand that God is trying to teach you something. It's a sign that you haven't mastered the lesson yet. God will not move you to the next level until you pass the test of the current one. He's saying, wake up, child, it's time to face this head on. There are moments when everything seems calm around you, but inside you feel turmoil and unease that you can't shake. This is not ordinary. When your spirit is disturbed and you can't pinpoint why, that's a signal. God is nudging you, telling you to pause, to reflect. That restlessness could be a warning that you are off course or about to make a decision that could lead you astray. Pay attention to the restlessness in your soul, for it may be the alarm that saves your destiny. Sometimes we're so focused on a goal, a relationship, or an opportunity that we refuse to see what's happening around us. We push, we strive, but nothing is moving. If the doors you keep knocking on are consistently locked, it may not be a matter of perseverance. It could be God saying, this is not the door for you. God's closed doors are often as much a blessing as his open ones. If you're experiencing resistance beyond what's reasonable, it could be divine intervention for your protection. Throughout history, God has used dreams and visions to communicate his warnings. Remember, Joseph warned in a dream to flee to Egypt. Do not dismiss the power of a dream that lingers with you. If you keep having the same dream or vision, take heed. Ask God for clarity, for sometimes his most urgent messages come to us while we sleep. Has someone you relied on left your life unexpectedly? Perhaps a relationship that once seemed promising is now a distant memory. Or maybe a business opportunity crumbled before it could even begin. Understand this: when God removes people or situations from your life, it's often for your protection. What you thought was a loss may actually be a divine subtraction to make room for greater things. Don't cling to what God has decided to remove. Trust that his plan is better. Sometimes God uses your body to warn you. Extreme fatigue, chronic stress, or emotional breakdowns may be signs that you are on a path that's not sustainable. You can't pour from an empty cup, and God knows that. If you've been neglecting your spiritual or physical health, he will send signals through exhaustion or even illness to slow you down. Don't wait until you're forced to stop. He's saying, take care of the vessel I gave you. You've done everything right, followed every step, and yet nothing. Progress seems at a standstill, and you're left wondering why delays, my friends, are not denials. God often uses delays to develop us, to give us time to grow, or to prevent us from rushing into something we're not prepared for. If you're facing unexplained delays, it's time to seek God. It may be his way of saying, slow down, I'm preparing something better. In closing, I urge you to pay attention to the signs in your life. God's warnings are not to harm you, but to guide you, protect you, and ultimately bless you. Don't ignore the whispers and the red flags. Recognize when God is saying, stop, turn around, and come back to me, for in every warning lies the opportunity for realignment, redemption, and revival. There are times in life when we face the same challenges over and over again. You've been through that financial struggle once before, or maybe it's a relationship issue that keeps resurfacing. Every year, every season, the same storm seems to circle back into your life. It may seem like bad luck, or you might even think you're cursed, but my friend, I want you to pause for a moment and recognize what's happening here. This is not a coincidence. This is not just life being cruel. These are divine warning signs, and they are not to be ignored. You see, when the same negative patterns keep showing up, it's because there's something you haven't addressed yet. God is trying to get your attention. He's saying, look, you're not dealing with the root of this issue. You're only scratching the surface. Until you confront that root, until you deal with that inner problem, that same external situation will keep repeating itself. It's like being in a classroom. God will not move you to the next grade until you've passed the test. And as long as you keep missing the lesson, he will allow the same scenarios to play out again and again into your life. Think about it. If you keep encountering financial struggles, perhaps the lesson isn't just about money. Maybe God is teaching you about stewardship, trust, or even breaking free from a spirit of greed or materialism. If relationships keep breaking down in similar ways, God might be showing you something about your own heart, whether it's healing from past wounds, learning how to love selflessly, or releasing toxic expectations. Every repetition is a message. But here's the key. You have to stop and ask yourself, what am I missing? What is God trying to show me that I'm not seeing? Ignoring these signs only prolongs the struggle. God doesn't want you stuck in a cycle of frustration. He wants you to graduate to the next level. He desires to elevate you, but he won't do so until you've grown through the process. If you're going through the same storm for the third, fourth, or even the 10th time, it's time to pause. Reflect. Ask God, what is it that I need to learn here? Until you fully grasp the lesson he's trying to teach, the patterns will continue to repeat. These aren't patterns of punishment, they are patterns of preparation. God is preparing you for greater things, but he will not release you into those greater things until you're fully equipped. Don't despise the repetition, see it as an opportunity. God's divine warnings through these repeated patterns are his way of refining you. It's not about the problem, it's about the growth. If you embrace the process, if you learn from the cycle, God will move you out of it. You'll look back one day and realize that what felt like an endless loop of struggle was really God's hand shaping you for your purpose. There are moments in life when everything on the outside seems calm. Your job is stable, your relationships seem fine, and from all appearances you should be content. But deep inside, something doesn't feel right. There's a restlessness in your spirit, a quiet stirring that you can't seem to shake. It feels like unease, like a low hum in the background of your mind that won't go away no matter how much you try to ignore it or distract yourself. That restlessness is often a signal from God. It's a divine nudge, a conviction deep in your soul that something is out of alignment. Sometimes we dismiss it as anxiety or stress, but it's far more profound than that. This inner disquiet isn't random, it's purposeful. It's God's way of alerting you that change is needed, that a course correction is necessary before you veer too far off track. He's calling your attention to something within or around you that needs addressing. Often this kind of restlessness comes when you're walking down a path that seems right to you but isn't aligned with God's will. You might be in a relationship, pursuing a career, or making decisions that, while good on the surface, don't align with his plan for your life. And rather than letting you continue on without intervention, God stirs your heart. He makes you uncomfortable, unsettled, because he loves you too much to let you drift in the wrong direction. That conviction you feel is his love in action, his way of pulling you closer to the life you're meant to live. You see, restlessness often arises when we've ignored God's voice for too long. Maybe you've been pushing forward in your own strength, relying on your own understanding, or trying to force something to happen that's not in God's timing. And even though everything may look good on paper, your spirit knows the truth. That inner conviction tells you there's a disconnect between where you are and where God wants you to be. It's important to recognize this restlessness for what it is, a warning, a wake-up call. Don't silence it with distractions or drown it out with busyness. Don't push it aside or try to convince yourself that it's nothing. This is the Holy Spirit trying to get your attention, urging you to stop, reflect, and realign your life. If you ignore it, you may find yourself in a place where the consequences of being out of step with God's will become much more serious. When you feel this inner turmoil, take it as a sign to seek God's guidance. Pray for clarity, ask for wisdom, and be open to the possibility that the path you're on might need to change. God's conviction isn't meant to make you feel guilty or fearful. It's meant to protect you, to steer you away from decisions or situations that could lead to regret. That internal discomfort is there to prevent you from making costly mistakes or living a life that's less than what God has for you. It's a call to obedience. Sometimes God is asking you to let go of something that you're holding on to tightly, whether it's a relationship, a job, a habit, or even a mindset. That restlessness is a sign that you're clinging to something that's no longer serving his purpose for you. And though it may be painful to release, trust that God is leading you towards something better, something more aligned with his perfect plan. Ultimately, internal restlessness and conviction are divine signals meant to lead you back to a place of peace and purpose. Don't ignore them. Instead, let them guide you toward the deeper truth God is revealing in your life. When you respond to his prompting, you'll find that what once felt like turmoil was actually the beginning of a new season of clarity, growth, and blessing. Sometimes in life, we find ourselves pushing toward a goal with everything we've got, our energy, our resources, our focus, yet it feels like the harder we push, the more resistance we encounter. You may feel like you're up against a wall, like every door you try to open stays firmly shut. It's as though no matter what you do, you can't seem to make progress. This kind of unusual resistance is not random, it's a signal, and more often than not, it's a divine one. We live in a culture that celebrates persistence, that tells us if we just work harder, if we just keep pressing, we can break through any barrier. And while perseverance is important, there's something critical we need to understand. Not every obstacle is meant to be overcome. Sometimes resistance is God's way of protecting us, of stopping us from moving in a direction that is not aligned with His plan. It's a warning sign that says this is not for you, at least not right now. This kind of obstacle is different from the normal challenges we all face. It's not just about effort or perseverance. When God places an obstacle in your path, it feels like an overwhelming, inexplicable resistance. You may experience closed doors where you were certain you would find opportunities. You might find that what was once easy becomes unusually difficult. Even the things that used to work no longer seem to move you forward. This is God trying to get your attention, trying to tell you that you're heading in the wrong direction or that the timing isn't right. When you encounter this kind of resistance, it's crucial to step back and ask, is this God telling me to stop? You see, not every path that looks good on the outside is God's plan for you. Sometimes we become so focused on our own desires and ambitions that we fail to see that the door we're trying to force open is not meant for us. God, in His wisdom, will close doors that lead to places we shouldn't go, doors that may seem like great opportunities but are not aligned with His purpose for our lives. Think about it in the Bible. There were moments when people encountered resistance that was clearly divine. Remember the story of Balaam, who was riding his donkey to curse Israel. He encountered an angel blocking his path. The donkey saw the angel and refused to move, even though Balaam tried to press on. Balaam was so focused on his mission that he couldn't see the warning in front of him. The angel was there to stop him from moving forward in a direction that was against God's will. In the same way, God will sometimes place obstacles in your path, not to frustrate you, but to protect you from a wrong turn. But here's the challenge: we often misinterpret resistance. We think it's a test of our determination. We think if I just work harder, pray longer, or keep pushing, I'll break through. And while there are times when perseverance is the key, there are also times when resistance is a message from God telling you to pause, to reevaluate, and to ask Him for guidance. If you're facing unusual obstacles at every turn, it may be time to stop and listen. This kind of resistance can also come through relationships, finances, or even your own health. You might notice that people who were once supportive are now pulling away, or that financial resources you once relied on are drying up. Or perhaps your body is telling you to slow down through illness or exhaustion. All of these could be signs that God is saying you're on the wrong path. It's time to realign with my plan. He's putting up roadblocks, not to harm you, but to redirect you towards something greater. When you experience this kind of divine resistance, don't see it as a failure. See it as a course correction. God is not in the business of frustrating your plans. He's in the business of fulfilling His purpose in your life. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is not to push through every barrier, but to stop and seek God's voice. Ask Him, Lord, is this resistance from you? Are you telling me to change direction, to wait, or to trust in your timing? The truth is, some obstacles are God's way of saving you from something you cannot yet see. He sees the bigger picture, and He knows that what looks like a detour or a delay is actually part of your preparation. That job you didn't get, it may be because God has something better. That relationship that didn't work out, it may be because God is protecting your heart for someone who would truly love and honor you. That project that keeps falling apart, it may be because God is shifting you into a new direction, one that will lead to greater fulfillment. Ultimately, unusual resistance and obstacles are God's way of guiding you not away from success, but toward His purpose. If you find yourself in a season where everything seems harder than it should be, where every door is closed and progress is blocked, don't be discouraged. Instead, seek God's wisdom. Ask Him to reveal whether this is a time for perseverance or a time for redirection. And trust that when God places obstacles in your path, it's because He's leading you to something far greater than you could have imagined. Obstacles are not the end, they're often the beginning of a new divine journey. Trust the process, trust the resistance, and trust that God is always working for your good, even when the path seems unclear. Throughout history, God has spoken to His people in many ways, and one of the most powerful and mysterious ways He communicates is through dreams and visions. These are not just random images or fleeting thoughts that come to us while we sleep or daydream. Dreams and visions are often direct messages from the divine, a way for God to bypass the noise and distractions of daily life to give us insight, warning, or guidance. When you experience a dream or vision that leaves a strong impression on your heart, it's important to recognize that it may be more than just your mind at work. It could be God trying to get your attention. In the Bible, we see numerous instances where dreams played a crucial role in guiding individuals and entire nations. Joseph, for example, was given a series of dreams that foretold his future and the purpose God had for his life. Even though the dreams seemed confusing and out of place at the time, they were prophetic, pointing to the season when he would rise to a position of great influence and save his family and a nation from famine. God uses dreams and visions to reveal his plan to those who are sensitive and open to his voice. Sometimes these dreams don't make sense in the moment, but they hold valuable insight for the future. Many people dismiss dreams as random or insignificant, but when God is behind them, they are far from meaningless. He often uses dreams to speak to us about things we might otherwise miss in our waking life. We are so busy with our routines, our plans, and our daily concerns that we don't always take the time to listen to his subtle prompts. In those moments when you're asleep, when your defenses are down, God can reveal things that your conscious mind might overlook. He can plant seeds of wisdom or direction that may not seem clear at first, but will make sense as time unfolds. If you find yourself having the same dream repeatedly, or if a particular vision lingers with you long after you've woken up, that's a sign you need to pay attention. God doesn't waste his time or yours. Recurring dreams often indicate that he is trying to get a specific message across to you. Perhaps he's warning you about a potential danger, offering a solution to a problem you've been struggling with, or preparing you for a future event. Just as he did with Pharaoh in the time of Joseph, giving him a dream that foreshadowed years of plenty followed by years of famine, God can use dreams to alert you to what's coming so that you can prepare. Dreams and visions are also a way for God to confirm things that he's already been speaking to you about in other ways. Maybe you've been feeling a tug in your spirit to move in a certain direction, but you've been unsure. Then in a dream, you receive a clear picture of that very situation. This is God's way of affirming what he's already placed in your heart. He's giving you the reassurance you need to move forward with confidence. Or perhaps, on the other hand, you're being warned to avoid a certain path, and the dream serves as a reminder that you're headed in the wrong direction. But how do you know if a dream is from God? First, consider the nature of the dream. Divine dreams often leave you with a deep sense of significance. They won't always be comforting. Sometimes they are challenging or even unsettling, but they will leave a lasting impression. You'll feel a conviction, a sense that this dream has weight, that is calling for your attention. Additionally, God's messages in dreams are often symbolic. He may not speak in literal terms, but through symbols and images that require discernment. Ask him for the wisdom to understand what he is showing you. Just as Daniel prayed for insight to interpret King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, we too can seek God for clarity on the meaning of what we've seen in our dreams. Another way to recognize a dream from God is through its alignment with his word. God will never send you a dream that contradicts the principles of Scripture. If a dream leads you toward a path that goes against God's teachings, it's not from him. True divine dreams will always direct you toward truth, righteousness, and obedience to his will. They will challenge you to grow, to trust, and to walk closer to him. Even if the dream is a warning, it will come with a sense of purpose, not fear, urging you to make necessary changes in your life. God can also use dreams and visions to bring healing. There are times when he allows us to relive or confront past hurts, failures, or unresolved issues in our dreams as a way of guiding us toward emotional and spiritual wholeness. These dreams might seem uncomfortable at first, but they are a divine invitation to deal with what's been buried for too long. When we allow God to speak to us through these dreams, he can bring the healing we need, even in areas we didn't realize were broken. Finally, it's essential to share your dreams with those you trust spiritually. God often confirms his messages through wise counsel. When you're unsure about the meaning of a dream, talk to a pastor, a mentor, or a friend who is grounded in the faith. They can pray with you and help discern what God is saying. In summary, dreams and visions are not to be taken lightly. They are divine tools that God uses to communicate, guide, and sometimes warn us. If you've experienced a dream that feels significant, don't dismiss it. Instead, take it to God in prayer. Ask for clarity, for wisdom, and for the ability to see the deeper meaning behind it. When we are open to receiving and understanding these messages, we position ourselves to walk in greater alignment with God's purpose for our lives. There are moments in life when people you thought would be with you forever suddenly leave. It could be a friend who drifts away, a mentor who moves on, or even a family member whose relationship becomes distant. This sudden departure can be painful and confusing. You may wonder, why did this happen, or what did I do wrong? But often, when people leave your life unexpectedly, it's not just a random event. It can be a sign that God is shifting something in your life. Sometimes the people who exit your life are only meant to be there for a season. God places individuals in your life for specific reasons and times. When that purpose has been fulfilled, He may allow them to leave, not because something is wrong with you or them, but because their role in your journey has come to an end. You may have outgrown that relationship, or the path you are on now may require you to walk without certain people who once walked alongside you. It's important to recognize that not everyone can go where God is taking you. Some relationships are seasonal, and holding on to them longer than intended can delay your progress. Sometimes we try to cling to people who were never meant to be part of the next phase of our lives. God sees the bigger picture, and He knows when it's time for someone to exit so that you can move into a new season of growth, development, or leadership. Their departure, though painful, is often a divine shift, a sign that God is clearing the way for what's next. When people leave, it can also be a form of protection. You may not realize it at the time, but God knows what's ahead. He knows the unseen challenges or obstacles that certain relationships might bring if they continue. That friend who seemed so close may have been carrying influences or habits that would have hindered your progress or even led you into harm. God sometimes removes people to guard your heart, your purpose, or even your future. Though you may feel abandoned, what you're experiencing could actually be divine protection in disguise. God can also use these departures to deepen your dependence on Him. We often rely on others for support, advice, or comfort in ways that might unintentionally take the place of our reliance on God. When those individuals are no longer there, we're forced to lean on Him more fully. Their absence creates space for you to draw closer to God, to hear His voice more clearly, and to trust in His guidance more completely. It's in those moments of loss that we often find the deepest spiritual growth, learning that God is truly all we need. There are also times when the departure of others is a way of redirecting your focus. You may have been so wrapped up in maintaining a particular relationship that it became a distraction from your purpose. Sometimes people around us are pulling us in directions that don't align with God's plan for our lives. When God removes them, it's a way of freeing you to focus on what He's calling you to do. He's saying, now that this person is no longer a distraction, you can fully step into what I've prepared for you. It's crucial to remember that just because someone leaves, it doesn't mean the relationship was a mistake. That person may have been exactly what you needed at the time. They may have poured wisdom, love, or support into your life, and their presence was part of your development. But God, in His wisdom, knows when to close that chapter. Sometimes the very people who helped you get to a certain point can't help you beyond that point. They served their purpose, and now God is preparing you for what's next, even if that preparation requires them to no longer be in your life. If you've experienced someone leaving suddenly, don't rush to fill the gap with new people or distractions. Instead, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask God what He's doing in this season. He may be creating space for new relationships that will help you in this next phase of your journey. He may be pruning your life to help you bear more fruit. Trust that He knows exactly what you need and who you need and when you need them. Ultimately, people leaving your life is not the end. It's often the beginning of something new, something better aligned with God's purpose for you. Let go with grace, trust in God's timing, and know that every departure is part of His divine plan to guide you toward greater purpose, growth, and fulfillment. There are moments in life when you can feel a change deep within you, a shift in your spirit that signals something is about to happen. It's subtle at first, like a whisper in your soul. But as time goes on, it becomes undeniable. You may not be able to explain it to others, but you know that something inside you has changed. This shift is a divine signal, a spiritual awakening that God is moving in your life, preparing you for a new season, a new purpose, or a deeper level of relationship with Him. This shift often begins with a sense of restlessness, a feeling that where you are right now is no longer enough. The things that used to satisfy you don't bring the same joy or fulfillment. You may find yourself disinterested in activities or conversations that once excited you. This restlessness isn't a sign of something wrong, it's a sign of growth. God is expanding your capacity, stirring your heart for something greater, something beyond your current situation. He is calling you higher, and this inner shift is a response to that call. When God is preparing you for a new level, He often begins by changing your desires. What once seemed important to you starts to lose its appeal. You might notice a growing hunger for more of His presence, a desire to spend more time in prayer or the Word. You may find that your spirit is longing for deeper meaning, for greater purpose. This is God drawing you closer to Him, realigning your heart with His will. The things of this world begin to fade in comparison to the peace and fulfillment that come from walking in His purpose. As this shift continues, you may also notice a heightened sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. Suddenly, you are more aware of His voice, more attuned to His leading. You may feel convicted about things that didn't bother you before, habits, attitudes, or relationships that are no longer in line with where God is taking you. This is a crucial part of the shift. God is refining you, purifying your heart, and preparing you for what lies ahead. He's making sure that nothing from your past will hinder the future He has for you. It may feel uncomfortable at times, but this discomfort is part of the growth process. During this spiritual shift, God often begins to remove certain things from your life. It could be relationships, opportunities, or even old mindsets that no longer serve His purpose for you. This can be a painful process, but it's necessary. God is pruning you, cutting away what is no longer fruitful so that you can bear even more fruit in the next season. Don't resist this process. Trust that God knows what He's doing. He's making room for the new things He's about to bring into your life. Along with this, you may experience a strong sense of anticipation, an inner knowing that something is coming. You may not know exactly what it is, but you can feel it. God is up to something. This is a sign that your spirit is aligning with God's timing. He's getting ready to release something new in your life, whether it's a new opportunity, a fresh vision, or a deeper revelation of His purpose for you. This sense of anticipation isn't about anxiety or impatience. It's about faith. It's about trusting that God is working behind the scenes, even if you can't see the full picture yet. As this shift in your spirit takes place, it's important to remain connected to God in prayer. This is the time to seek His guidance more than ever before. Ask Him to reveal the next steps, to give you clarity on what He's calling you to do. Sometimes the shift will lead you to make bold decisions, stepping out in faith, leaving behind old ways of thinking, or embracing a new direction. Other times, God will call you to be still, to wait on His timing. Either way, staying close to Him in prayer will help you navigate this shift with wisdom and grace. This spiritual shift is also a call to trust God at a deeper level. When God begins to move in your life, He often leads you into the unknown. You may feel like you're stepping out into uncharted territory, and that can be scary. But this is where faith comes in. God is asking you to trust Him even when you don't have all the answers. He's asking you to walk by faith, not by sight, knowing that He has already gone before you and prepared the way. This shift is not meant to bring fear. It's meant to increase your faith and dependence on Him. A shift in your spirit is a sign of transformation. It's God's way of letting you know that you're about to enter a new chapter of your life. Embrace this shift, even if it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Remember, growth rarely happens in comfort zones. God is stretching you, refining you, and preparing you for greater things. He's calling you to step into a new level of purpose, to carry more of His presence, and to walk in a greater level of authority. As you move through this spiritual shift, surround yourself with people who will support your growth. Not everyone will understand what God is doing in your life, but those who are spiritually attuned will recognize the shift and encourage you to keep moving forward. Seek out mentors, friends, and spiritual leaders who can help you discern what God is saying and pray with you through the transition. Ultimately, a shift in your spirit is an invitation to deeper relationship with God. It's a sign that He is taking you higher, calling you into a new level of purpose, influence, and intimacy with Him. Don't resist the shift, embrace it. Trust that God is in control, that He is working all things for your good, and that this shift is a part of His perfect plan for your life. Walk in faith, knowing that the best is yet to come. Sometimes in life, you'll face confrontations that seem to come out of nowhere, unexpected resistance or criticism from people or places you never anticipated. These moments can catch you off guard, and the immediate reaction might be to question why it's happening or what you did to deserve such hostility. But when these confrontations arise from unexpected sources, there is often something deeper at play, and it's crucial to discern what God might be trying to reveal or accomplish through them. One of the hardest parts of these confrontations is that they often come from those we trust or from situations where we felt secure. It could be a close friend, a family member, or even a spiritual leader. The unexpected nature of the conflict makes it more painful and confusing because the person confronting you is someone you believe was on your side. You may start to wonder if you misunderstood the relationship or question whether you misstepped somewhere along the way. But here's the reality: God can use even these surprising conflicts to shape you, to expose hidden truths, or to push you into a new direction. These confrontations are not always meant to destroy you, though they may feel hurtful in the moment. They can serve as mirrors that reflect something about yourself or your situation that you've been blind to. Sometimes God allows people to challenge you unexpectedly, to highlight an area of your character that needs refining or a situation that requires deeper reflection. It may be that through this tension, He's revealing a flaw, a weakness, or a vulnerability that you've been avoiding. The confrontation, though uncomfortable, becomes an invitation for growth, for you to evaluate whether your actions, attitudes, or decisions are in alignment with God's will. On the other hand, unexpected confrontations can also expose the true motives of the people around you. When someone suddenly turns on you or confronts you in an unexpected way, it can reveal hidden jealousy, unresolved bitterness, or even manipulation that you didn't see before. God may be using the confrontation to pull back the curtain and show you who is truly for you and who is not. Sometimes we're too close to a situation or person to see clearly, and the conflict shakes us out of our comfort zone, forcing us to see the reality of a relationship or situation. God allows this not to harm you, but to protect you from further damage or to redirect you toward healthier, more life-giving connections. When confronted by someone unexpectedly, your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, or to fight back. But before reacting, it's wise to step back and seek God's perspective. Ask him what he wants you to learn or understand from the situation. Often the way we handle unexpected conflicts says more about our character than the conflict itself. Will you respond with humility, seeking wisdom and clarity, or will you let pride and defensiveness rule the moment? God may be using the confrontation to test and strengthen your maturity, teaching you to handle adversity with grace and wisdom. Consider the story of David when he was confronted by Shimei, who cursed him and threw stones at him as David fled Jerusalem. This confrontation came at a low point in David's life. He was already on the run, betrayed by his own son, and now he was being insulted by someone who had no authority to speak into his life. David's men were ready to strike Shimei down, but David stopped them. He recognized that this unexpected confrontation could be God allowing him to be tested or humbled in that moment. Rather than retaliating, David chose to endure the insult, trusting that if God was in control, he would ultimately vindicate him. This is a powerful lesson in handling unexpected confrontations. Sometimes God uses these moments to see how we'll respond under pressure, to refine our character and prepare us for the next level of our journey. Another key reason for unexpected confrontations is to push you out of a place of complacency. You might be comfortable in a situation or relationship that is no longer aligned with God's purpose for you. The confrontation acts as a catalyst for change, forcing you to reevaluate where you are and whether it's time to move in a different direction. Often it's through conflict that we are driven to seek God more earnestly, to re-examine our path, and to listen for his voice more closely. The disruption, though painful, can be God's way of saying it's time to shift. It's time to move into something new. In some cases, unexpected confrontations come because you're stepping into a new level of influence or purpose. The closer you get to fulfilling God's plan for your life, the more resistance you will face, often from people or places you least expect. When you begin to walk in your calling, it can stir up opposition, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're stepping into something powerful. People who once celebrated you may now criticize you, and those who once supported you might now distance themselves. This shift can be disheartening, but it's important to recognize that not everyone can handle your growth, and not everyone will understand the path God has you on. Consider Jesus himself, who faced opposition and confrontation from the very people he came to save. Those who should have recognized him as the Messiah, the religious leaders and scholars, were the ones who resisted him the most. His teachings and actions challenged their comfort and disrupted the systems they held dear. But Jesus did not let these confrontations derail his mission. He understood that the resistance was part of the process. That opposition often comes when you are walking in alignment with God's will. In the same way, when you face unexpected confrontations, especially when stepping into your purpose, understand that this resistance is often confirmation that you're moving in the right direction. Lastly, unexpected confrontations can strengthen your resolve and sharpen your focus. They push you to rely on God more fully, to clarify your vision, and to move forward with greater determination. What was meant to throw you off course can actually propel you forward if you handle it with the right perspective. Instead of seeing the confrontation as an attack, view it as an opportunity to reaffirm your commitment to what God has called you to do. The resistance you face may be tough, but it is not stronger than the purpose God has placed within you. In conclusion, confrontations from unexpected sources can be difficult, but they are often a sign that God is doing something significant in your life. Whether they serve as a mirror for self-reflection, a test of your character, or a catalyst for growth, these moments are not to be feared. They are to be embraced as part of the divine process that shapes you, prepares you, and ultimately pushes you closer to God's plan for your life. Instead of shrinking back, face these confrontations with faith, knowing that God is in control and that he is working all things for your good, even the conflicts you didn't see coming. There are times when your body or emotions seem to reach a breaking point and you feel as though you can't go on. It may come as exhaustion, illness, anxiety, or overwhelming stress that seems to drain every ounce of strength from you. This kind of breakdown, whether physical or emotional, can feel like a sudden collapse. Everything that you've been carrying, holding together, or pushing through suddenly crumbles, leaving you in a state of helplessness or despair. While this experience can be incredibly painful and unsettling, it can also be a significant sign that God is trying to get your attention. Sometimes a breakdown is not just a random occurrence or the result of life's pressures, but rather a divine warning that something in your life is out of balance. It's God's way of saying, stop. Look at where you are and listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Often we push ourselves too hard, ignoring the subtle signs that we need rest, healing, or spiritual renewal, and a breakdown forces us to pause and reflect on what we've been neglecting. Physically, a breakdown might manifest as fatigue that no amount of rest seems to relieve, chronic stress that weakens your immune system, or even more severe health issues that suddenly appear. These physical symptoms are often your body's way of saying that you've been running on empty for too long. You may have been neglecting self-care, pushing through seasons where God was calling you to rest, or ignoring signs that you needed to slow down. When we disregard these prompts, our bodies sometimes give out because we weren't designed to live in constant overdrive. God created rhythms of work and rest, and when we violate those rhythms, the consequences eventually catch up to us. Emotionally, breakdowns often come when we've been suppressing feelings for too long, pretending everything is fine when inside we are crumbling. It might be unresolved grief, unhealed wounds, or accumulated stress that has built up over time. Instead of dealing with these emotions, we might keep pressing forward, telling ourselves that we don't have time to break down, or that we're too strong to let our emotions affect us. But emotions, like physical energy, have limits. When we ignore the emotional toll life is taking on us, it can lead to overwhelming anxiety, depression, or even emotional numbness, where we disconnect from our own feelings as a defense mechanism. These breakdowns are signals that God is calling us to face the deeper issues we've been avoiding. A breakdown, whether physical or emotional, is also often a sign that we've been trying to carry too much on our own. God never intended for us to bear the weight of the world on our shoulders. Yet, in our desire to meet expectations, achieve goals, or take care of others, we often take on burdens that we were never meant to carry. When we try to handle everything in our own strength, we eventually reach a point where we simply can't continue. The breakdown becomes a moment where God is inviting us to surrender, to release the weight we've been carrying, and allow Him to be our source of strength. It's a divine interruption that reminds us of our human limitations and our need for His grace. Another important aspect of these breakdowns is that they often occur when we are out of alignment with God's purpose for our lives. You may be working hard, chasing goals, or trying to make something happen, but if what you're pursuing is not in line with God's will, it will eventually take a toll on you. God, in His mercy, allows a breakdown as a way of redirecting you. He's saying, this path you're on is not sustainable. You're not following the plan I have for you. The breakdown then becomes an opportunity to reassess where you are and what you're doing. It forces you to ask, am I pursuing what God wants for me? Or am I chasing something that is draining me without purpose? In these moments, it's crucial to listen to your body and your emotions, but even more importantly, to listen to God. Ask Him what He is trying to tell you through this experience. It's not just about recovering physically or emotionally, it's about gaining spiritual clarity. Maybe God is calling you to reevaluate your priorities. Maybe He's asking you to slow down, to heal from past wounds, or to focus more on Him and less on the things that have been consuming your time and energy. Often we discover that the breakdown is a divine reset, a chance to realign our lives with God's will and to start anew with fresh vision and purpose. A physical or emotional breakdown can also be a sign that we've been disconnected from God's peace for too long. Jesus promised that His yoke is easy and His burden is light. If we are constantly feeling weighed down, overwhelmed, or stretched beyond our capacity, it's often because we're not walking in that divine peace. We're trying to control too much, do too much, or fix everything in our own strength. The breakdown then becomes an invitation to step back into the rest that Jesus offers. It's a reminder that we are not called to live in a constant state of stress or anxiety, but in the peace that comes from trusting in God's provision and guidance. When you find yourself in the midst of a breakdown, it's easy to feel discouraged or even defeated. But remember, a breakdown is not the end, it's often the beginning of something new. God may be stripping away the things that have been hindering you, purging what's unhealthy, or repositioning you for a greater purpose. The breakdown can be a prelude to a breakthrough, where God rebuilds your strength, restores your spirit, and brings you into a season of renewal and transformation. The key is to surrender, to allow God to do his work in you through this process. In times of breakdown, don't isolate yourself. Reach out for support, whether from trusted friends, family, or spiritual mentors. God often uses people to help us through difficult seasons, to pray for us, to offer wisdom, and to remind us of his promises. You don't have to go through it alone. Lean into community and allow others to walk with you as you navigate the healing process. Ultimately, a breakdown is a sign that something deeper is at work. It's a signal from God that there are things in your life that need attention, healing, or realignment. Instead of resisting or being ashamed of the breakdown, embrace it as an opportunity to grow, to heal, and to draw closer to God. Trust that he is with you in the midst of it, and that through this challenging experience, he is preparing you for something greater on the other side. When a sudden financial loss or material decline hits, it can feel like the ground beneath you has been swept away. Whether it's an unexpected job loss, a failed investment, mounting debts, or unforeseen expenses that drain your resources, these moments of financial crisis can shake your sense of security and stability. It's as if everything you've worked hard for suddenly begins to crumble, leaving you anxious, confused, and searching for answers. But as painful and challenging as these experiences are, they often carry a deeper spiritual significance. Sometimes they are not merely economic downturns, they are divine wake-up calls. One of the hardest things to accept during financial loss is the feeling of being out of control. We tend to put a lot of trust in our ability to manage our resources, plan for the future, and make wise decisions. When financial trouble hits, it exposes how vulnerable we truly are, reminding us that no matter how much we plan or how hard we work, we are not in ultimate control of our lives. This loss of control is often God's way of shifting our focus back to him, reminding us that our true source of security is not in our finances or material possessions, but in him alone. It's a call to reevaluate where we have placed our trust and to remember that God is our provider. In times of sudden financial loss, we are confronted with the reality of our dependence on wealth and material things. Whether we realize it or not, it's easy to begin relying on money as a source of comfort or validation. We may find our identity in what we have and our ability to provide, or in the status that wealth affords us. When that is stripped away, it forces us to confront the deeper questions. Where have I placed my sense of worth? Have I been trusting more in my bank account than in God's provision? The loss, painful as it may be, serves as a refining process, revealing areas of our hearts where we have allowed material things to take the place of God. Often a sudden decline in finances is God's way of drawing us into a deeper dependence on him. In times of abundance, it's easy to forget how much we need God. We become self-sufficient, relying on our own ability to sustain ourselves. But when financial hardship comes, it brings us to a place of humility where we must cry out to God and trust him in ways we may not have needed to before. This reliance isn't just about asking God to fix our finances, but about cultivating a heart posture that says, God, I trust you no matter what my financial situation looks like. You are my provider and you are enough. In these moments of material decline, God often shifts our attention from the temporary to the eternal. Financial loss strips away the illusion that material wealth can satisfy our deepest needs. It's a reminder that the things of this world are fleeting and no amount of money or possessions can bring lasting peace or fulfillment. Sometimes God allows financial decline to break our attachment to earthly things and refocus us on his eternal kingdom. This shift in perspective helps us to see that while money can meet physical needs, it can never meet the deeper needs of our souls. It's a call to invest in what truly matters, our relationship with God, our character, and our purpose. Another powerful aspect of financial loss is that it tests and strengthens our faith. When everything is going well, it's easy to say we trust God. But when financial security is taken away, that trust is put to the test. Do we still believe that God is good when our resources dry up? Can we hold on to his promises even when our bank account is empty? These are the moments when faith is refined. God often allows these tests not to punish us, but to strengthen our reliance on him. Through the fire of financial hardship, we learn to walk by faith, trusting that God will provide in ways we may not see yet. In these seasons, God may also be teaching us important lessons about stewardship and priorities. Sometimes financial decline is a result of poor decisions or mismanagement of resources. It's easy to overlook bad habits when everything seems to be going well, but when money is tight, we are forced to confront the areas where we may have been careless or irresponsible. God, in his mercy, allows us to experience the consequences of those decisions, not to condemn us, but to correct us and teach us how to be better stewards. He wants to shift our mindset from being driven by consumerism or materialism to living wisely with what we have and focusing on what truly matters. Financial loss can also be a setup for a new season of provision, but often it requires us to release what we've been holding onto so tightly. God may be allowing certain things to be removed from your life so that He can bring something better in its place. It's like pruning a plant. The cutting away of what is no longer fruitful may seem painful, but it's necessary for new growth. In the same way, God may be using this time to remove things that are hindering your spiritual growth or to prepare you for a new opportunity or direction that you hadn't considered before. During times of financial strain, it's also important to recognize that God's provision often comes in ways that are unexpected. We may be looking for Him to provide in one specific way, but God's resources are limitless, and His solutions may look different than what we had in mind. It could come through the generosity of others, a new job opportunity, or a creative way to meet your needs that you hadn't anticipated. This is where faith comes in, trusting that God sees your situation and has already prepared a way through it, even if you don't see it yet. Sudden financial loss can also deepen our compassion for others. When we've experienced lack, we become more sensitive to the needs of those around us who are struggling. It creates a heart of empathy and generosity as we realize how much we rely on God and each other. Sometimes God allows us to go through these seasons not only to teach us dependence on Him, but to prepare us to be a blessing to others who are walking through similar trials. It opens our eyes to the reality that true wealth is not measured by what we possess, but by the love and support we extend to others. Ultimately, a sudden financial loss or material decline is a profound moment of spiritual reflection and transformation. It challenges us to let go of our dependence on worldly security and invites us into a deeper relationship with God, where we trust Him fully as our provider and source of strength. In the midst of the loss, God is working to reshape our hearts, to refine our faith, and to prepare us for the greater purpose He has for us. While it may feel like the end, in God's hands, it's often the beginning of a new season, one where His provision, purpose, and presence become more real than ever before. Unexplained delays can be one of the most frustrating experiences we encounter in life. Whether it's a job opportunity that seems to take forever to materialize, a dream that feels perpetually out of reach, or plans that are continuously postponed without a clear reason, these moments of waiting can test our patience and resolve. In a society that values instant gratification, delays can feel like an interruption to our carefully laid plans and can lead us to question not only the timing of our circumstances, but also the purpose behind them. However, unexplained delays often carry profound significance and can serve as divine messages that invite us into a deeper understanding of God's timing and purpose for our lives. One of the most critical aspects of unexplained delays is the opportunity they provide for reflection and introspection. In the hustle and bustle of life, we often rush from one goal to the next, driven by our ambitions and desires. However, delays can force us to pause and assess our motivations, desires, and priorities. When things don't go according to our timeline, it presents a chance to ask ourselves some essential questions. Are we pursuing the right goals? Are our intentions aligned with God's will for our lives? These moments of waiting can serve as a divine invitation to align our hearts and minds with God's purpose, to reconsider what we're chasing, and to seek clarity about our path. Moreover, delays often reveal the importance of God's timing. In our impatience, we might feel compelled to rush ahead, but God's perspective is vastly different from our own. He sees the bigger picture, the complete tapestry of our lives, and knows when the right time for something to happen is. Just as a seed needs time to grow and mature before it can bear fruit, our dreams and aspirations also require preparation. Delays can be God's way of ensuring that we are ready to receive what we're asking for, both in terms of our character and our capacity to handle the blessings that may come our way. Sometimes the delay is a protective measure, safeguarding us from rushing into something we're not yet prepared for, or from circumstances that could lead to harm or disappointment. Unexplained delays can also deepen our faith. When we encounter obstacles or waiting periods, we are often forced to confront our anxieties and fears. It challenges us to trust God in the unknown, to lean into our faith rather than relying solely on our understanding. God often uses these delays to strengthen our reliance on Him. It's easy to have faith when things are moving smoothly, but true faith is forged in the fire of uncertainty. It's in the waiting that we learn to depend on God more fully, to trust that He is working behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. It reminds us that we are not in control and that His plans and timing are ultimately for our good. Delays can also be an opportunity for growth and preparation. During periods of waiting, we can focus on personal development, whether through education, skill building, or deepening our relationship with God. Instead of viewing the delay as a setback, we can see it as a season of preparation. God may be using this time to equip us with the tools we need for the next phase of our journey. Just as athletes train for competition, we can use periods of unexplained delays to prepare ourselves spiritually, emotionally, and mentally for what lies ahead. This preparation can lead to greater strength and resilience when the time finally comes for us to step into the opportunities we've been waiting for. Additionally, unexplained delays can sometimes serve as a redirection. While we might have our hearts set on a particular path, God may have something better in store for us. Delays can be His way of guiding us toward a different direction, one that we might not have considered or been able to see before. When we encounter roadblocks, it's essential to remain open to the possibility that God is redirecting our steps. What seems like an obstacle could be an opportunity for something greater, a way for God to lead us into a future that aligns more closely with His plan for our lives. The waiting period can become a time of exploration, allowing us to seek and discover new avenues that we might not have considered previously. In times of unexplained delays, it's also crucial to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and trust. Gratitude can change our perspective during waiting periods, allowing us to focus on what we have rather than what we lack. By adopting an attitude of thankfulness, we can find joy even in the uncertainty, recognizing that God is with us in the waiting and has a purpose for every moment. Trusting God during these delays means surrendering our timelines and expectations, believing that He knows what is best for us. This shift in mindset can bring peace amid confusion and anxiety, reminding us that God is sovereign and working all things for our good. Moreover, delays can enhance our resilience and perseverance. When we are faced with challenges, we are often stretched beyond our comfort zones. This process can build character and strengthen our resolve. As we navigate through these unexplained waiting periods, we learn to endure and remain steadfast, which prepares us for the challenges that may come our way in the future. Just as the great figures of faith in the Bible had to endure periods of waiting like Abraham, Joseph, and David, our delays can be a testament to our faith and determination. They teach us to keep pressing forward, trusting that God is at work in ways we cannot yet see. Finally, unexplained delays often lead us to a deeper relationship with God. In the waiting, we may find ourselves more inclined to seek Him through prayer, meditation, and reflection. When we encounter uncertainty, we often realize that God is our only constant. It's in these moments of seeking that we can experience His presence more profoundly. He invites us into a relationship that grows richer and deeper through trust and dependence. The delays can lead us to a place where we recognize that our ultimate fulfillment does not come from our accomplishments or achievements, but from knowing God and being known by Him. In conclusion, while unexplained delays can be challenging and frustrating, they are not without purpose. They provide opportunities for reflection, growth, and deepening our faith. God uses these moments to remind us of His timing, to prepare us for what lies ahead, and to redirect our paths when necessary. As we navigate these periods of waiting, let us embrace them as moments to draw closer to God, to trust His plans, and to recognize that delays may be part of the divine orchestration that ultimately leads us to a place of greater fulfillment and purpose. When we can shift our perspective on delays, we may discover that they are not the end of our journey, but rather an integral part of the process that shapes us into who God intends us to be. As we reflect on the 7 shocking signs that God may be sending us a warning, it becomes evident that these experiences are not merely inconveniences or random occurrences. They are divine invitations to pause, reflect, and realign our lives with His purpose. From the unsettling awareness of repeated patterns in our lives to the profound impact of unexplained delays, each sign carries a significant message tailored for our personal growth and spiritual journey. When we recognize the internal restlessness or conviction within us, we are reminded that God is actively working to guide our hearts toward His will. The unusual resistance or obstacles we face may serve as divine roadblocks, compelling us to reconsider our paths and draw closer to Him. Dreams and visions often become vessels through which God communicates His plans, urging us to seek His guidance and clarity in times of uncertainty. In all of these signs, God is not simply warning us, but inviting us into a deeper relationship with Him. He longs for us to recognize His voice, to embrace the lessons He is teaching us, and to trust in His plan, even when we don't fully understand it. The journey of faith is not always linear or predictable, but it is in these moments of challenge and uncertainty that we find opportunities for growth, transformation, and intimacy with our Creator. So as we move forward, let us approach these signs with open hearts and minds, ready to listen and respond to God's gentle nudges. May we cultivate the courage to face our fears, embrace change, and trust in His divine wisdom, knowing that each sign is a pathway leading us closer to the fulfillment of His purpose for our lives. Let us remember that we are never alone on this journey. God walks with us every step of the way, guiding us toward a future filled with hope, promise, and endless possibilities.